Hey everyone, my name is Kayla Blakeslee and I host Fort Wayne's Morning News on a radio station here in Fort Wayne called WOWO 1190 AM and 107.5 FM. That means we're on two different kinds of radio stations, an AM dial and an FM dial. A lot of you are probably too young to be familiar with an AM dial, but that's okay. You know what a radio is. I chose to get into this industry because I love the news, and that's what I do here on this radio station. I share all of the news stories that might impact you or your parents or your grandparents. Maybe they'd be stories that impact the food you eat or the money that you have. And that's what I do from 5 to 9 a.m. every single morning. I get up every day at 2:30 in the morning just so I can share all of these news stories with you right here on the radio. But really the ultimate reason why I chose to do it was just simply because I love the news. I have a desire to share stories that impact you in your daily life. So that's why I'm here. A typical day for me, like I said, involves getting up at 2:30-ish in the morning. I'm usually here to the fabulous WOWO studio by 4 a.m. and I immediately dive into the news that happened overnight or early in the morning, and that way I can kind of bring together all of the stories that I feel like are the most important to share with folks who are tuned in from 5 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the morning. So my show is 4 hours long. Once I get off the air at 9 a.m., I might spend my time recording commercials that air on the radio station. I could go out and meet with some clients who advertise on our radio station, whether it be a home builder or a deck builder, all sorts of folks I get to run into. I'll also pre-record some interviews, whether it be with local congressmen or elected leaders, or perhaps, folks from the local pet adoption center who have a pet up for adoption. And I do all those things until about 11:30, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and then that's when I get to go home. So yes, I'm getting up pretty early while you're sleeping, but I get to go home around lunchtime. Back in elementary school, middle school, high school, I pretty much always wanted to work in the news. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm doing today. But I'll be honest, what I first wanted to do was work in television broadcast, where you kind of share the news stories on TV. However, when I got into college at Penn State University, I got introduced to the great world of news talk radio. And once I was introduced, I was hooked and I never looked back. I've had multiple different kinds of jobs. The very first job I ever had was working at McDonald's. I got to clean the bathrooms and scrub the toilets, which was not a very glamorous job at all, but I did it because I needed to make a buck to afford to go to school so I didn't have to work at McDonald's, for my whole life, because that's just not what I wanted to do. I also worked at a country club and bussed tables. I was a waitress for about 4 years, all through college. I will say all of those journeys, they may not have related to the news, but I got to meet tons of people. I got to work on my conversation communication skills, which are extremely important in the job I do now, since I essentially talk for a living. So those jobs may not relate directly to what I do now, but they absolutely provided me with some very valuable tools to do what I do today. So that first job I ever had, McDonald's, and it's brought me here to working in radio. Something that might surprise you about my job, most days I get to wear sneakers and leggings to work. Sometimes I'll even roll in with a ball cap. Why? I don't have to dress up because I work in radio. Nobody can see me when I'm doing my job, which is my favorite part of the job. I don't have to wear makeup. I don't have to do my hair. So none of that for me, which might surprise folks. I can wear sweatpants and sneakers to work. I gotta tell you, and I gotta tell you right now, I've been preached at since I was a very, very small child that education is so important, and I still believe that to this day. I ended up going to a really pretty big school back in Pennsylvania called Penn State University, and while I was at Penn State, I studied broadcast journalism the entire time. I got to work for something called the Big Ten Network, which is a sports channel. It was one of the best experiences of my life, and that's when I really learned how to tell a story. So education is so important. It's going to give you all the tools that you need to be successful once you reach your ideal job or your ideal career. So that was my path. What advice would I give to myself if I chose my career path over again? when I was younger? That's a good question. I think I would tell myself that the hustle is worth it. I hustled a lot growing up, like I said, scrubbing toilets from McDonald's to working part-time at the Big Ten Network while I was in school at Penn State. I hustled a lot. I lived out of my car on the weekends to try and cover multiple stories, and I would say it is absolutely all worth it. If I could tell myself that 10 years ago, that's definitely what I'd tell myself. If you or anyone you know is super interested about learning what I do, I would highly, highly recommend that you just start getting educated when it comes to stories that are happening around your school, around your home, maybe at the local restaurant that you go to with your family. Once you start diving into things that are happening around you, you could easily get into radio, you can get into any kind of broadcast, TV, multimedia. Just start talking to people. You'll start to learn their stories and you'll get to know them and realize there are some great stories to be told all around you every day.